Hello and welcome to our continuing series of Green Elephant B Corp interviews. B corporations, or B Corps for short, are businesses that meet the highest standards of verified social and environmental performance, public transparency and legal accountability to balance profit and purpose. Throughout this series we are chatting with key people in companies which have chosen to certify as B Corps and become a force for good. This week I've been joined by Aneisha Soobroyen, I've said that right, haven't I, from Scrumbles. Scrumbles are on a mission to help our dogs and cats to have happier lives with good digestion, improved immune function and pretty poops by providing good natural food. They've been a certified B Corporation since January 2019 and are probably already preparing for their recertification. So we'll have a chat about that, I expect. Aneisha is one of the founders of Scrumbles and has a background of working in some of the biggest companies in the world. This has led to Aneisha being serious about pet nutrition and determined to have fun along the way, which is lucky because you're on the Green Elephant show. Welcome indeed, Aneisha.
Hi, Russell. Thank you for having me.
A pleasure indeed. Well, the elephant in the room. The question is, what is a pretty poo?
Well, believe it or not, there's actually a Bristol stool chart of what a poo should look like.
Oh, wow.
And when we were developing Scrumbles, we enlisted the help of all of our friends and family and their pets to send us poo selfies. So if you went through my phone for a period of time, it was pretty gross. And we had lots of pictures of very watery poos all the way to what I would say is a pretty poo, the nice formed, slightly moist, but pick upable. And that's what is a pretty poo.
Okay. I mean, that brings a new meaning to doing a Bristol, I suppose. So you've got your two pets, and there's a picture on your website of Smudge and Boo, which are your dog and cat. So how did you and Jack come to conclude that their poos weren't smelling right?
Well, you've got cats yourself, so you probably know that cats have very strong smelling poops, particularly when they're kittens and you're litter training. So you can't escape the smell; it takes over the whole house. We rescued Boo, who's our kitty, and the stench was really the real telltale sign of bad poos, but obviously we also had to clean it from the litter box and it was very difficult to clean. So we knew that there was a problem and took Boo to the vet as quickly as possible, and we were prescribed what is known as the poo prescription, which is a probiotic paste. I don't know if you've ever had it yourself for your cats.
Oh, no, not for the cats. No.
And it's great. You basically pour some of the probiotic paste onto the food,
Right.
and immediately it helps with the digestive system. So
Okay.
we had less smelling poos and perfectly formed, so really easy to scoop out the litter box. But when we went back to feeding just the food without the probiotic paste, all of the problems kept coming back, and we tried various different foods and couldn't find one that worked for her. So that was our light bulb moment of saying we should make something that actually has that probiotic benefit so that you don't have to keep going back and forth to the vet.
Yeah, and so had you worked in food before, so to speak, or
Yeah, so my career spanned pet food, human food, and health and beauty. My first job was actually with Procter and Gamble, where that's when Smudge joined my life, and it was me and Smudge hitting the road, meeting with independent pet shops, talking about Eukanuba and IAMS, both very big brands.
Very big, yeah.
And then I moved into the world of health and beauty at Unilever, P&G, and L'Oreal, and got very bored of talking about beauty products and realizing that there was lots of makeup that I didn't know how to use. So, I like to eat food. So I wanted to move into the food world, and I joined a wonderful startup called Bear Nibbles. I don't know if you know them. They make these.
I saw you, Bear Nibbles, but yeah, What were they?
Yeah, so
Presumably not
they
nibbles for bears.
no, they make dried fruit yo-yos for kids. It's all about healthy snacking for
Oh yeah, yeah.
children. And they're really tasty, and actually loads of adults eat them as well. And I loved the fact that I was working for a business with a purpose behind it, but also
Right.
a startup. It was very much a family feel. I'm still really good friends with the people that I worked with, and that made me want to do something in food. But my issues with Boo just made it something, a food that I couldn't heat myself.
I see. Yeah. So, I mean, but it must have been a bit of a leap from human food to pet food, was it? Or is it
Definitely.
really? Yeah.
I think the hardest thing about pet food is with human food, you can taste it, you can see it, and people can get that reaction. With pets, it's the only food that they eat, really. They don't have as varied a diet as us humans because their digestive systems are very different. So, a cat's digestive tract is really short, which is why it's really important that food is highly digestible for them. So,
Right.
there's a real challenge of educating pet parents as to what they should be looking for in a food. And also, if you think about kids, if you were to offer me sugar and sweets and chocolates, I'm going to say yes to that and probably say no to the healthy salad. So getting that same understanding to pet parents that something that's healthy and nutritious might not be as appealing as something that's full of sugar and salt. It's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I love the way you call them pet parents. My cat's more like pet slaves. We are, not them. Um, that's very interesting about the digestive tract. Obviously, it must be slightly different for different type for the dogs. But how do you start to develop something for something that can't give you good feedback, apart from producing a poo?
Yeah, so the poo is the end result that we're looking for, and that's why we had those selfies and continually compared them to the stool chart.
Yeah.
Obviously, your cat or dog has to eat the food, so you
Yes.
have to
Yeah.
start with taste and looking at nutritional requirements, what cats and dogs actually need. On paper, we developed the recipes and then looked at how we could actually make the food, and started with our cat and doggy to see if they liked it, and
Yeah.
obviously if that they're our chief tasters, so with their seal of approval we then moved on to friends pets, so to see if they liked them before expanding further again.
So no human tested taste testing then?
We have had a few humans eat the food, yeah. So we do use human grade ingredients, and I'll never forget at Crufts a couple of years ago we debuted our dental treats, and I was describing all the benefits to a customer, and I had one of the treats in my hand. And bear in mind at Crufts there's lots of dogs, so I've been stroking dogs all day long, and I've been sweating, and the lady just took it out of my hand and ate it, and I just to check that the ingredients are safe for her as well. It was pretty gross, but she was happy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. People do have different levels of tolerance, don't they, to it. Now, you use natural. Your website says you use natural ingredients. What do you mean by natural ingredients? Because
Natural
everything.
ingredients,
Mm,
it's everything can be natural, and it's very
yeah.
broad because obviously sugar and salt's also natural, so we always say we use
Yes.
the good naturals. um a long time ago, and it's still the case for a lot of pet products, that there's artificial additives in products. So that's what we mean when we say this is made with natural ingredients. It's things that you would recognize in your own kitchen:
Okay.
chicken, carrots, everything that you can actually understand. So again, we say if you turn around the bag and you see something that you don't know what that is, run a mile, or put that bag back down and find
Yeah.
one where you do know the ingredients.
Well, yeah, because I mean, some of them are a bewildering list of stuff that you never heard of. And without mentioning any brand names, we have found, obviously with kittens, you try pretty well everything to see what works and what they like the best. We tried lots of different packs, and some drove them kind of
Crazy.
nuts. what
Yeah.
what's that all about? What are they
I
bunging
don't
that?
know if I'm allowed to use this
No.
phrase, but we always say that's cat crack, those
Yeah.
ones that like really turn them crazy. And they're really addictive. So, some people will see that and think, oh, my cat absolutely loves this.
Loves
I
it.
must
Yes.
get this again. But it's quite terrifying when you do look at what's going in there that's causing them to go so crazy.
Yeah. And so, I mean, so taking it to the extreme is, or probably not the extreme. Well, it is the extreme in today's world, is the extreme of being able to read everything on the back of a packet and understand what all of it is quite a step forward then. Which
Yeah.
kind of brings me on to the meat question. You told me that you are a vegetable-based diet person yourself, and yet you are producing meat-based products. Is that a conflict?
Definitely, and it's something that I think about a lot, and we have a lot of customers that message us to ask, when are you going to create a vegetarian diet for our cats and doggies? And actually, there's a festival, believe it or not, a cat festival that happens every summer, which is run by a lady who is a vegan herself, and all of the food at the festival is vegan, and they have talks to encourage people to have a plant-based diet, but they specifically have talks to say, but please do not feed a plant-based diet to your cat, because of course cats are
Oh
obligate
wow.
carnivores. They
Yeah.
can't synthesize all of their essential amino acids. They must get that from meat. So it's really important for them to have that meat in their diet.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's just something we have to accept. But obviously, meat we know is having, especially the massive consumption of meat that we now have in the world, is having a detrimental effect to our climate. Uh,
Yeah.
is
And we try to take conscious decisions about the meat that we use. So
Yeah.
people probably don't know this, but we're a pescatarian pet food company. We choose
Okay.
to use that's a phrase
Sorry,
that
a polypesca.
pescatarian
Okay.
pet food company. So we use your lower emission meats, and we'll always avoid red meat and dairy.
Yeah.
And there's certain kind of principles that we've set that we just won't use in our food, so that they do have a lower carbon footprint. We don't compete with the human food chain. We'll never create meat for pet food. We'll always use meat that's available that would otherwise go to landfill. So there's a
Oh
lot
right.
of quality product that is on those bones that we'll use for our food. So in that respect, from an environmental sustainability aspect, it's actually beneficial.
Oh, brilliant. So essentially, you're dealing with waste, and that kind of brings us onto the circular economy aspect of we. How do you find enough waste to be able to turn this? Is this waste? Is there a lot of it? And you're just dipping into a very large mountain of food waste. Is that what's happening?
Terrifyingly so. And I think that with the pandemic, we've become more wasteful as people. So
Oh,
something
really?
Yeah, I think I actually think we've been forced to as well. So a friend of mine is currently assessing the climate impact of the pandemic, because obviously fewer people took planes, but actually more of us started driving, and more of us started using single-use plastic. So the wonderful things that the supermarkets did with ridding all the plastic bags, and Ocado does the recycling of the bags, all of that stopped. Disposable coffee cups started to reappear. People wouldn't actually allow you to use your refillable cups. So there's been
Ah,
some real negative impacts from the pandemic, and the same is true in food. And actually beer, I don't know if you're a beer drinker, but the pubs have had it very hard.
they
So
have.
all of that material, they've had to throw a lot of that product away.
Hmm. Yes, yeah. I mean, it was swings and roundabouts. I mean, it is. There's been a lot less driving, a lot less flying. I'll be interested to hear what their result is when they've done the assessment, because I'm sure there's a lot of people trying to work out um, what the heck's gone on. Because although we had dropped emissions, I think it was reported on average over 2020 by 7%. it's gone straight back up again during the winter, because of course everyone's at home, and things aren't as efficient at home perhaps as they might be in an office, and so people aren't operating efficiently even though they're working from home, not traveling. But dogs and cats, go on.
No, I was just going to say, on a positive side, though, I think with that, people recognise some more problems, and there's some real exciting innovation on the way. So I think and Bulb, I don't know if they featured on one of your previous podcasts.
Not yet.
They're a really cool B Corp, and again, we use them, so it's greener energy, and I think I've seen advertising for them everywhere, which always means that they must be doing well. So I think that people are becoming more conscious.
And maybe that is the case, but people have become more conscious. But in the research so far, you're suggesting that obviously the plastic use and other systems which were previously in place to reduce plastic have been abandoned because it's just not feasible under the COVID controls. That's interesting. Hadn't heard that one before. I mean, that kind of neatly brings me on. There's a bunch of segues here into packaging. You've obviously had to work hard on packaging to match the ethical contents, I guess. What has that been a struggle?
Packaging is the bane of my life, and actually I'm probably going to say something that you won't expect me to say, but I'm going to stick up for plastic, because I feel like plastic gets tarnished with a lot of hate, and all types of plastics are grouped into one box, and it's really unfair because there are so many forms of plastics, the good, the bad, the downright ugly. And I think that people don't quite understand that plastic is an important tool for sustainability, and that's often overlooked. The amount of food waste it prevents, keeping food fresher for longer. It's very cost effective, which from a social sustainability aspect makes food more affordable to more people, and it's a lot lighter than many alternatives like paper. So logistical efficiency, better logistical efficiencies as well. So I think that we can work towards a circular economy where plastic plays a role, and we can capitalize on all of that value. We actually work very closely with the University of Bath. So when we developed Scrumbles, we conducted a life cycle assessment on our products so that we could understand, the full end-to-end supply chain, where was our impact and how big an impact was packaging versus other areas. Surprisingly, packaging actually is a really small impact within our full kind of portfolio. Logistical efficiencies had a significantly higher environmental impact. So that's part of the reason why we set in place principles to manufacture locally and really reduce our food miles. But when it came to packaging food, obviously being a food product, you've got to ensure that it's got those appropriate moisture barriers and can keep the content of the food fresh. We also wanted to understand the end of use. So initially we looked at paper, but it's not great for some of the reasons I've already mentioned, like being heavier, but also not having that moisture barrier. We looked at biodegradable materials, and I think that there's a bit of education needed for shoppers, because that's not necessarily a green option. It's it ends up going to landfill where it cannot biodegrade. There is no oxygen in most landfill, and actually, if any organic matter does biodegrade, it releases methane. So that's even worse than your non-biodegradable products. So because of that, the best option that was available was a mono PE plastic. So fully recyclable, has the appropriate moisture barrier, and avoids landfill. It's not the perfect solution, and I think this is why packaging is the bane of my life, because there's never a perfect solution. But I know that suppliers are working really hard on innovation. We take care to use low VOHC inks, ensure that all of the card and paper that we do use for sleeves is FSC certified, and obviously that's fully recyclable. And if we use a compostable material where that's appropriate, so with our dog treats, you can have a lower moisture barrier, so compostable materials becomes applicable. We ensure it's home compostable, because industrially compostable materials again ends up going to land.
Because unless you got your own bio digester at home, it's unlikely. Yeah, you're kind of doomed. And yeah, we found on a number of occasions, speaking to the B Corps during B Corp month, for example, which we did with 31 of those, there was 2 or 3 food borough broths, who kind of was, as an example, who said, yeah, there's sometimes you just can't get away from it because plastic is actually really clever. And there's no real alternatives to it on occasions, but how you use it as responsibly as you have is the important bit. So yeah, I don't think you're alone in your battle, that's for sure. The what am I trying to say? The next thing I want to talk about is, oh yeah, that was it. Have you thought, are you considering going beyond the cat and dog arena? Is that your whole focus? Because obviously there are more pets than just cats and dogs.
There are, and we do feed hedgehogs. Like we know that people use Scrumbles to feed hedgehogs, and we actually wrote a blog on hedgehogs have had a really tough time. The weather's not been great for them, so we do a lot of education about other animals. The reality is, I have a cat and a doggy. It's something I'm super passionate about because they're my babies, and we've got a big job at hand. So I'm never going to say never, but right now, there's so much more that we need to do with cats and dogs.
Okay. So where did all this start? You obviously we know smelling poo and paste, biotic paste, macrobiotic, what it was. Probiotic paste, that's the one, for your cats. That's where the light bulb moment came. But why such the attachment to the sustainable circular economy aspect? What's driven that in your life?
I'll be honest, I going back 10 years ago, I wouldn't say I was a very conscious consumer. And it wasn't until my last year at university, I had a very passionate lecturer who taught us about climate change, and he would spend most of his weekends campaigning or going on marches against, to kind of drive awareness of the problems our climate faces. And that's when I started to recognize that there was more that I could be doing. And that was a light bulb moment for, oh wow, I've got a really big impact. And it's been a gradual journey, and I'm definitely not perfect. And I think that is something no one should aim to be perfect, because you'll very quickly become overwhelmed. Everything we do has an impact. And I don't know if you've seen the movie Okja. Have you seen that film?
Okja, the kind of very large, looks like a kind of a dog pig thing.
Yeah, so great movie, made me cry. But there's a character in that film who is exactly what I've described, super perplexed with their environmental impact. So he just doesn't eat anything, and he's about to like faint from the fact that he's not eaten for like over 2 days. And because even an apple has a massive impact, and he's like going through all of the different things there. And I don't think we should ever get to that level. I think people need to just be hopeful of all the positive innovation that's happening, just make those small changes and being better. So I try to target one positive change a month in my own personal life, just to see how I can do something different. So I've recently changed my deodorant. I found a really nice independent business that's made in the UK. So and it's all packaged in really nice recyclable packaging. I moved banks, so that was a new one for me. I hadn't previously thought about ethical banking, but a friend, we went on a dog walk, and after David Attenborough's Life on Our Planet mission statement, we talked about what we would do, and she said, have you thought about who you bank with? And I hadn't. So that was something that I started to look into and understand that actually where you put your money really matters. And so changed to an ethical bank. But I'm always trying to do different things, but definitely not perfect.
Yeah, interesting. And of course there are B Corp banks as well. Triodos.
Yes, so they're a brilliant bank, Triodos and also Starling Bank. They're the only 2 banks that have made a formal commitment against investing into fossil fuels and in like really bad things like arms and things
Yeah.
like that. So that's who we bank with.
And it's an interesting point you bring up. Where we put our money is key. There was another interview we did with Cap EQ, actually, who said if there's one thing you could do is put your pension money into a pension pot that is sustainable. So make sure
Yeah.
your pension funds are being used for sustainable projects, essentially. And it's, yeah, it's because the pension fund trusts around the world are what run, the majority of big investments. So yes, we got to think where we put our money. And so you've built up essentially from university. I think it's not unfamiliar. Some people are kind of born into it or they're led into it by parents, but you had a moment where you went, I need to do something personally to work on this. And then of course you had your future light bulb moment based around poo, which
Yeah.
is, two very interesting transitions in your life. I like that. So why B Corp? Why did you strive to become a B Corp in 2018? Presumably you started your journey.
Yeah, so I knew that I wanted to create or lead a purposeful business, and I'd
Yeah.
worked at the bigger guys. So I worked at Unilever and P&G, and at my time there, I noticed that making a change retrospectively was really difficult to achieve, because you're such a big company. There's so much bureaucracy. We actually, myself and my co-founder worked at Unilever together, and they drove a new sustainability initiative where people could volunteer to be sustainable champions for the business. And we leapt at the chance to be a sustainable champion, and all had to like come up with ideas for how we as individuals could reduce our impact.
Yeah.
And we thought a really simple thing to do, I don't know if you've been to the head office there, but everywhere you turn there's a coffee tea point, and they use disposable coffee cups.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, there's 1,500 of us or so in the office. On average, we're drinking 4 or 5 cups of coffee. I won't lie, I was drinking like 10 teas a day at that point. So more than my fair share. And all of those cups were just going into the bin. So we were having a huge impact as a business. And we thought, well, why don't we just get rid of the coffee cups and have actual mugs? So Unilever said, "Yep, great initiative. Let's trial it." We got rid of all the coffee cups for 2 weeks, gifted every employee with their own mug, and it was like World War III hit, and everybody was really upset because this simple change was such a big deal. So we very quickly went back to the
Oh.
coffee cups.
Oh no.
And I've not been there for a number of years. It may have changed. I hope so. But part of the reason I wanted to be a B Corp was to instill that governance right at the beginning, so that we had the right framework and decision making to guide the business from day one, so that we were taking the right path forward and not having to work
Yeah.
backwards.
Yeah. And we've come across a number of B Corps that have been formed with the end in mind, or with that goal in mind. Obviously, you can't become a B Corp until you've done a year's worth of trading, but you can become a pending. But that instilling it from the beginning, as you say, makes it very difficult to change. Change is always the problem in every business. Whenever you go to do anything, making a change is the problem. So yes, it's good to start from the beginning. So can you put a finger on what you value about being a B Corp? Because obviously it's not the easiest certification.
Oh, it's a very long process, and it's really difficult. But I think exactly what you just said, change, it's being part of it. I value the fact that we can make real change. It's just so much more possible to drive change as a group of people. And we're influencing the retailers. So as part of B Corps, we speak to retailers like Ocado, and we say, let's drive this mission statement forwards and really put it in front of shoppers so that they know, that there are better choices out there. And the nature of business, the more trends, the more the investors and big companies see where those consumer trends are, the more they kind of invest behind those initiatives. So collectively, we're able to get the world of business moving in a more sustainable manner.
Brilliant. Yeah. Oh, that's great. insight into pet foods. As I said to you earlier, just before we came on to the show recording, I've got you some of your products coming through now for Max and Klaus. So I'll give you some feedback on that one.
Yeah, and if you want them to be Insta famous, send us a picture.
Okay,
Gotta,
okay. Well, I'll probably take a photo of them post gorging. That's always quite funny as they lie on the sofa going,
they
"Oh."
goblins are
So I asked you before we came on if you had a tip that you would share with everybody. There's something to get people thinking and doing stuff.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, just based on the terrible year that we've had, there's loads of things you can do, but
Yeah,
if I would whittle it down to one, I would say go local, support your independent local businesses, because it's supporting our local economy, it's reducing those food miles, and that's going to promote a greener future. And like I said a moment ago, sometimes it can feel like there isn't a lot of hope that you can make a big difference, but
yeah,
those small changes really do influence the future, because the more you kind of rally behind those small sustainable companies, those larger companies and investors will look at that data and invest behind even more initiatives like that.
and I'm always thinking it's actually small changes that got us here in the first place. We didn't instantly become a massive consumer of fast foods. That was bled into us through clever promoting, and slowly we ate more and more of them, and slowly we were convinced that getting a disposable cup and throwing it in the bin was the best way to have coffee when you were out for the day, and then we got told that having your, I don't know, I saw a picture the other day of a Coke can in a cellophane wrapped plastic tray. And of course, bananas, who have their own packagings built in, wrapped in plastic. And you kind of go, it's only those small changes where we said we want the standard type of banana and we want, more meat at low prices. As it's our fault doing lots of
Yeah,
small changes, so it can be our fault for improving it by doing lots more small changes, but in the other direction.
exactly. And going back to that cost perspective, I know that's a real barrier for some people to buy into sustainable products, because it does cost more.
It
But
does.
the more people buy into those, the better economies, cost economies, those businesses and supply chains can have to make those products more affordable.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well that's a brilliant recommendation. Support our local, and I think by local we can extend that to the UK.
Yes.
Beyond UK, and of course we also want to wave the flag, of course, by B Corp, because that's a really good way of getting yourself. Did we mention? We didn't mention the bum tapping supermarkets, did we?
No, we didn't. No. So there's Pouchgate. Have you heard of Pouchgate?
No, I haven't heard of Pouchgate. It sounds ominous. Was Richard Nixon involved?
Well, lots of people have spent a lot more time at home and decided to introduce a furry member to their family. So
Yes.
I think the last read I saw, there's been an introduction of 6 million new cats and doggies. And with all of those pets, they have to eat something, but we haven't been able to prepare for it in advance. And a lot of the products that do get imported over, there's been quite a bit of a delay. So if you go into your supermarkets, you might see in the pet food aisle empty shelves everywhere, and it's particularly hit wet food pouches.
Yes.
So we manufacture in the UK, and our products are, our supply chains in a healthy position. So we've been able to help support Pouchgate and launch our wet cat food and dog food into Asda stores. So that just went live last week.
Brilliant. So you don't have to. You can use the store online. I found it very pleasant experience. So that was good. And yeah, so you can also go to your local Asda. That's great news. Getting into one of these bigger chains is a challenge, isn't it?
It is. They deal with understandably fewer suppliers, and those big suppliers like Unilever's and P&G's, they make so many different products across all the categories, so it makes sense that they deal with them. Being a small business, it's harder to kind of get that cut through, but
Yeah.
we were really fortunate that we could help and that they, asked us to support them. So thank you, Asda.
Yeah, and we spoke to Beauty Kitchen, who are working with Asda, and they've got a refill station in Leeds, which
That's amazing.
which I think is going to go rolling out as well. So hats off to Asda. I think they are really trying, as I think many of the supermarkets are, to be fair. They just need to try harder, in my opinion. Try harder and be quicker. Come on.
No, I know, and like that was one of the things I said in terms of the climate change and pandemic. I think a lot of the initiatives that they'd signed up to, so things like having recyclable materials, they've just dropped down the priority list because there's been other things to focus on, and I'd like to see those go back up to the top.
Yeah, I mean, when we went through this whole lockdown process, we became a country of wasters. I mean, the whole PPE plastic disaster that's happened out of the back of so many masks being dropped on the ground with, ropes that can wrap around a bird's neck or whatever. It's just really bad. Also asked for a recommendation from our interviewees or victims, as you might feel. So what recommendation do you have? Would you make people?
Mine is My Octopus Teacher, which is a beautiful documentary about the relationship a man has under the sea with an octopus. And I think it just shows, the greater world that we're all part of. So if you haven't seen it, watch that.
Yeah, and I haven't watched it. We've had it recommended once
Oh, you will
before.
cry.
Will I? I am a softie, to be fair. There's also, I think, a book called The Soul of an Octopus, which
Oh, I've not heard of that.
I think I might have got the title wrong because that was a bit on the hook. But that was recommended by one of our B Corps as well. So this aspect of getting aware of what animals are might change your perspective on eating them and
It
how you
definitely
treat
did
them.
mine. It was after watching Okja that that was the start of my plant-based journey, and I immediately said can't do it. But
Can't do it.
and I don't know. Again, Peter did a really funny YouTube video of somebody going into the supermarkets after watching Okja and just grabbing all the meat and be like, "No, it's Okja." But that was really funny.
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch. I need to sit down and watch these movies, so I'll do that on your recommendation. And previously you mentioned David Attenborough's mission statement, which I think we can't help but recommend multiple times because you got to watch it because it's horrific.
It's terrible and amazing to see the journey he's had and the changes that have happened in the environment in that time.
Yeah, yeah. So that just leads us to one final dreaded moment where I start asking you some fact or fakes. And funnily enough, they're about cat and dog food.
If I get these wrong, that's awful.
So I'll give you a statement. You tell me whether you think it's fact or fake. So, because dog and cat food tends to have more meat than the average human diet, this means that American dogs and cats, just to limit your view a little bit, consume about 25% of the total calories derived from animals in the United States. Is that a fact or a fake? So in America, dogs and cats consume about 25% of the total calories derived from animals in the United States.
I'm going to say that's a fact.
And you'd be right.
Yay!
Well done. Okay, it was a
Great poker face there.
well, I am practiced at this now, and my intention is to win, but I'm now 1-0 down. Yeah, that was a 2017 study, so a little old, and it'd be interesting again. What's the impact of 2020 done to that stat? Hopefully, we'll get something out. A more recent one though, in 2019 in the UK, they found that 50% of adults own a pet, with 10.9 million people owning a cat, up from 6 million in 1981. Is that a fact or a fake?
Fact.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I mean, obviously, it's going to be an increase in 2020 again, but I did also read, same article, abandonment is going up, which is, horrendous. That people get the, it's back to the pet isn't just for Christmas, it's for life.
Yeah, it is.
We
And
now
obviously,
pet is not just for COVID lockdown.
yeah, and different breeds, suit different lifestyles. I'm a big dog lover, but I have a small doggy because that suits my lifestyle, and I think a lot of people will choose to adopt or buy a pet that they like the look of, and they have very different personalities and needs, so you should definitely check that suits your lifestyle and that you'd be a good mum or dad to them first.
And that you can, you're thinking long term. This isn't a short term event.
Yeah,
They our last dog,
pandemic will be over, thankfully,
it will
so
be, and then you'll
yeah.
want to go on holiday, and then you'll be kennels and catteries and okay. So final one then. You've already won. So this is all
Yay!
this can be to me is a consolation. So 20.8 million dogs and cats in the UK again, consuming just one tin or unrecyclable plastic package of cat food or dog food per day results in 7.6 billion containers being manufactured in each year.
Well, that
Again,
was a very long one, so I'm obviously going to get this wrong.
I've had to step it up.
Can't
So
even catch up with that question.
I'll repeat it.
Um,
I'll repeat it. And the figures match. I'll just tell you this: 20.8. I haven't changed one and not the other. So 20.8 million cats and dogs in the UK consuming one tin or unrecyclable plastic package adds 7.6 billion containers into production. That's what's required. Is that a fact or is that a fake?
I'm going to go with fake, but I feel like I'm going to get this wrong.
So why did you go for fake?
I was trying to work the maths out in my head, and I didn't think that I could get there.
Well, you'd already thrown a quote in that there are 6 million additional cats. So 20.8 million dogs and cats is what is suggested is in the country at the moment. And they
Yeah.
are producing 7.6 billion containers a year.
I just wanted to give you one to win because I thought that was a
Very
nice thing.
gracious. So what that was a pity.
That was for
Oh,
you.
that's
Yeah.
dreadful. Okay, I mean, fair enough. There was an add-on fact to this as well. Another 3.6 billion plastic bags for picking up the estimated 1.2 million tons of dog poo. So I had to end on poo as well. But I think important to say is, although those stats say, obviously pets have their own impact. They have their own carbon footprint, and we need to consider that as well when we take them on. Is we are contributing to that, but we do also need to weigh that up against there is significant mental health benefits from
And physical benefits. So it's one of the blogs I'm writing at the moment, which is weighing up the impacts of our pets, because the honest answer is the best thing for the planet would be for none of us to exist, because we all have our environmental impact.
yes.
But I don't think we're gonna Thanos everybody and go that way. So
Yay, Marvel reference. You win this prize of the week. If only you'd known there was a prize for the secret phrase.
oh, I hope it's the glove, but
Yeah, we just need the
no.
Infinity Stones. There's a whole stack of people watching this now. I haven't got a clue what we're talking about. I love that.
Yeah, no, one of the things I'm going to touch on in the blog is, as well as those mental health benefits, and that they're huge, there's also lots of physical health benefits. And I think there's a study that I won't recall the stats incorrectly, it will be in my blog, but it
Good plug.
shows how people that have a dog have a much healthier life and lower levels of heart disease and all sorts of different things. So, our pets do a lot for us, and I think it's good that we reward them with and in a conscious way, because there are things to do to minimize their impact.
Yeah, and you're right, and your foods are one of them. To be fair, so again, I'll look forward. My cats are going to be looking forward to this. I'm going to pop upstairs and tell them in a second. You're very privileged to have your dog next to you. If I had the cats here, they'd be climbing over the microphone, so that's not going to happen. So with my crushing defeat and the pity 1 point that I got out of you, I just thank you very much for joining us on the Green Elephant Show.
Oh, thank you. It's been delightful.
We really hope that you found this insight into another B Corp both informative and entertaining. So make sure you don't miss any of our chats with B Corporations by subscribing to either our podcast, available on all good providers, or the Green Elephant YouTube channel. And please don't forget to spread the word with others. If you have any questions about being or becoming a B Corp, or any comments and suggestions about the show, please do get in touch. You can email studio@greenelephant.show or visit our website, greenelephant.show, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube or Twitter by searching for @greenelipod or The Green Elephant Show. You can also review the show on Google and Apple Podcasts. Join us next time, and we hope you have a sustainable and socially responsible week.